consult your resentment, you know, it's easy to become bitter about life and to become angry because, of course, life is difficult and it's full of disappointments, and people are also subject to betrayal on the part of themselves and on the part of people that hypothetically care for them. So it's easy to get bitter and to be resentful. And resentment is a very useful emotion, even though I think it's one of the most damaging emotions if it's not dealt with properly. So if you're resentful, basically means only one of two things. It either means you should grow up and quit whining and get on with your life, or it means that you're being subject to tyrannical forces of one form or another, maybe emanating from you, maybe a consequence of the natural environment, maybe a consequence of society. You're being subject to tyrannical forces and you're not putting your own best interests forward, like in that broader sense that I described. And I don't mean your selfish, narrow interests that only serve the purposes of instantaneous gratification. I mean your own best interests in terms of developing your character over the span of your life. If you're resentful, it either means that you're immature and that you should grow the hell up. And so you need to figure out how much of your resentment is that, and maybe allied with the desire to find other things or people to blame. But the other possible option is that you have something to say or do. Because you're in a situation where you're violating your own internal ethical standards. And you're being required, pressured, let's say things you don't believe or to do things that you believe to be wrong. And you need to start to strategize and plan how you can rectify that so that you can say what you mean. You have to be willing to engage in a certain amount of conflict, because in order to sort out what's disturbing you, you're going to have to lay your concerns out on the table and say, well, look, this is bothering me. You don't have to say, well, I'm right and you're wrong and you have to fix this. You have to say, well, I've noticed that this pattern of interaction or lack of interaction, say, in our relationship is making me resentful and angry. It's easy to get bitter. You really want to wake up and figure out that you're wasting half your life? It's painful. It's painful to recognize that. Then it's painful to think, oh my God, look how undisciplined I am. People doing that, they feel bad, they get depressed, they feel anxious, they can't get away from it, they feel kind of quasi-addicted.
That's what they're saying about social media now. It's a huge issue with young kids.
Absolutely, but there's this feeling of kind of internal rot and corruption that goes along with it. It's like, yeah, well, you're wasting your life.
Much more inclined to let other people live their lives if you're living your life in a satisfactory manner.
That's exactly it.
Just saying, just stop wasting your life. Like, I think that's not enough.
You're right, just telling people not to waste their lives is not enough. And this is another reason why I so much enjoy being a clinical psychologist, because clinical psychologists don't stick with high-level abstractions. Especially the behaviors, they're really practical. Most of the time you should think, where am I falling short of the ideal? My own ideal. Doesn't have to be one that someone puts on me. Where am I less than I should be? Where am I bitter? Where am I making the world a worse place than it has to be? Like, you ask yourself those questions, you'll be in for a big shock. Stop saying things that make you weak. Stop telling lies that you know to be lies. Stop doing things you know to be useless and counterproductive. Aim high, adopt some responsibility, and then see what the hell happens. It's like it'll work, and that's what I'm hoping people will do.
When you do, you realize why this is so significant to you.
What's one piece of advice that you would have given your 16-year-old self?
What's one piece of advice I would have given?
So something you've learned in adulthood that you wish you could translate to someone coming through adolescence to adulthood.
Don't be so high and mighty that you don't take advantage of the humble opportunities that are granted to you. When I look back, I didn't like school at all. You might say I hated it. And I thought a lot about that, because I thought, well, there were reasons. I was bored a lot as a teenager and got into a reasonable amount of trouble, not an unreasonable amount, but there were things that I didn't do that I could have, that would have made my life better, but I was too cynical, maybe, to take full advantage of them. Life is very difficult, and in order to thrive this difficult life, if an opportunity is presented to you, you shouldn't be so arrogant that you dismiss it. And it's really easy to be arrogant as a teenager, especially if you're smart, because you think, well, I'm smarter than everybody else. It's like, actually, no. There's lots of people that are a lot smarter than you. You just haven't met them yet. And you're not as smart as you think you are, besides, and other people aren't as dumb as you think they are either.
There's different kinds of smart.
There certainly is, yes, and wise beats smart. So I would say if you're 16 and your life isn't so happy, it's like look around and see if there are opportunities that people are granting you, even imperfect opportunities, because they're going to be imperfect, that you could exploit, let's say, in the proper way and learn and grow.
I think that advice is good to even young adults, even to adults, really, to pause and appreciate the opportunities and the doors that are always open to them, and the experiences that are always available.
Well, here's an idea.
Yeah.
So life is brutal, and what you have to set against that is possibility. And you might say, well, life is so brutal and you have to utilize all the possibility that comes your way. So an opportunity manifests itself and you turn it down, you ignore it, you let it drift away. It's like, that's one thing that you had against the horror of existence that you let go of. You let go of 10 of those things, man. You're on the street.
Right.
And it's no fun there. And it doesn't get better. And so, there is a possibility that if you utilized all the possibility that was offered to you, that your life would be straight and clean and engaging and acceptable and positive. And it's worth finding out if that's the case, because it might be true. Don't be so high and mighty that you don't take advantage of the humble opportunities that are granted to you. Wise beats smart.
The successful person is the successful hero who establishes order in the midst of chaos and sets up a domain in which he and his family, let's say, and the community can survive and thrive. And the unsuccessful is someone who fails at that and then, perhaps even worse, becomes embittered by that failure and turns against life and begins to act in a malevolent manner and a destructive manner. So the fundamental narrative landscape in some sense is good versus evil in the world of chaos versus order. It's something like that. It's something like that. And you see that expressed very frequently, for example, in video game structures. So, because games and stories share a lot in common.
tried to place the idea of the functional myth in a Darwinian context and take seriously the idea that our fundamental religious narratives, which are associated with these great myths, are actually evolved structures. And they've evolved at multiple levels. First of all, they're expressions of our physiological being, because we act in certain ways in the world as a consequence of the manner in which we're constituted physiologically. And our physiological constitution is obviously a product of Darwinian processes, like insofar as you buy by evolutionary theory as a generative, as an account of the mechanism that generated us.
For a very long time, I've been trying to understand how it is that people might make sense out of their lives and make their lives meaningful in the face of the trouble that life brings.